Welcome to the Power of Music podcast, brought to you by JM International. Get ready to explore conversations with those making a difference through music.
Hello and welcome to the Power of Music podcast, brought to you by JMI, Jeunesse Musicale International, the global network of NGOs that empowers young people through music across all boundaries. This episode is the third in our special series recorded at WOMEX 2024, the premier worldwide music expo where artists, industry professionals, and cultural leaders gather to exchange ideas, collaborate, and celebrate musical diversity. In this episode, we're joined by Katharin Ahrend, a Berlin-based cultural manager and creative producer who has spent more than a decade shaping cultural projects at the intersection of music, urban development, and social justice. As one of the managing directors of the Berlin Club Commission, Katharin leads the Tag der Clubkultur Festival and the Awareness Academy, a platform dedicated to fostering anti-discriminatory practices within club and festival culture. Together, we explore the deeper cultural value of club and rave scenes, discussing why these spaces are more than just entertainment. Katharin shares insights into the challenges of promoting diversity and inclusion, including door policies that shape club access, and the strategies needed to create safe, inclusive spaces in the music industry. As always, if you enjoy our content, don't forget to subscribe, like, and rate the podcast. We hope you enjoy the episode. Thank you so much for joining us today for the podcast. Can you please share a bit about your journey into music and how you ended up at the Club Commission?
So I think my journey really started in my teenage years. I started getting into the rave scene in East Germany, where I was born at a very early age. So I think that's my first connection to music in general. And in this region where I was living, there was nothing much going on. It was very much a rural area without culture. And I was forming a collective with a group of friends and students in the city. And when I was 17, 18, we were organizing the first music festival in that area. And that's how I became an organizer in the music industry, I would say. And then I later on made this my professional life. I studied cultural management and organized several electronic music festivals around Berlin with the same group of people, and eventually landed in Berlin. And we got into an abandoned space, a former factory. They were producing coins there back in even in the GDR times, and the first euros they were producing there. And then it became an abandoned factory in 2006 and 2013. We took the space over and transformed it into a cultural space. And the basement there, we were as well creating a club. And there was a lot of cultural projects and music-focused projects going on. And that was what I was doing for many years. And it as well had a lot to do with activism around the space, because there's a huge fight going on around spaces in Berlin, because the city becomes more and more crowded and free spaces are vanishing. So we try to preserve that space for culture. And that's how I got into cultural politics and advocacy work. And then just shortly before the pandemic, I switched sides and I became part of the Club Commission, which is, the network for Berlin clubs and club cultural spaces and collectives and organizers and nightlife. And I was advocating there. And I started a project that is called Awareness Academy, which gave me the possibility to kind of transform or transfer all the experience I was making as an organizer, as a queer female organizer in the scene, and transfer it into creating safer spaces policies and measurements for club culture, and help clubs and collectives creating more inclusive spaces on their own. I think that's my journey.
Can you share a bit about what initially attracted you so much to this club scene, maybe even in relationship to the zeitgeist?
Mm-hmm. So I'm very passionate about it, and it's just at the core of my heart, because I really believe in general in the power of club culture, because it brings people together. It's a non-digital space where people from all backgrounds with all kinds of ideas can come together and experiment. And just this very ritual or spiritual experience of dancing and moving your body together to music, to the same music, I think it's really something, and it's very unique, and there's a lot of power in terms of social cohesion and creativity and just creating together and being together. And I'm 38 now, and I still believe in it, and I'm still very passionate about it.
And then, so you worked for quite some time directly within music, and then one day you decided to go more into the advocacy side of things. Mm-hmm. Do you remember what sparked that decision, or what made you decide to make that switch?
So I made that switch, or this decision, end of 2019, when I was producing festivals for over 8 years. And producing music festivals and cultural spaces is a lot of work, and it's very exhausting. And it has no limit. It never ends. And I just felt I was kind of being very exhausted, and things started to repeat itself. And as well, at the same time, I was realizing all the structures behind it that I didn't find very equal and inclusive. And I was just seeing the same problems all and over again. And it was a very male-dominated scene I was working in. It still is. And I just found it's very important to create ideas and projects and spaces to kind of tackle these structures and change them, and create spaces where people can come together and create ideas and work towards a sustainable future within the music industry. And I think that's what sparked my initial idea of changing that. And as well, because I really got into this advocacy work because I had to, because in this cultural space I was working in this interims usage, we were about to lose it every half a year because we had no ongoing contract and everything was very precarious. So I had to learn on my own with these people I was working how to advocate for our rights, how to maintain the space, how to address the government, administration, politics, and different audiences, and talk about the culture we are doing there and why it's important. And I got really passionate about it. And as well, I thought I have talent. And and then I thought I'd give it a try. And when I then started out at the club commission, and I was just I thought I would do a part-time job and take it easy for a while. And then the pandemic hit in February, March 2020. And I found myself with an 80-hour week because there was this crazy crisis moment within the music scene, the cultural scene in general going on, because everything just stopped and no one knew what would happen. And then we initiated a project which is called United We Stream, and which started as a local initiative and then became a global one, which was basically, we started together with a TV channel in Germany and France to broadcast streamings from Berlin clubs to keep the scene visible and to keep the artists visible. And that's where I then again understood, okay, this is really, you can do something that is helping the scene, it's promoting the scene, and it's promoting culture, and it helps preserve and developing it. And then I just sticked with it.
Wonderful. So it's a really nice way to make a difference. Mm-hmm. Can you say a bit about actually what is Berlin Club Commission? I'm not sure if people are familiar with this concept in itself. And also, what is its mission besides answering to pandemics and sort of more urgent problems?
Yeah, absolutely. So It's an NGO or an association that is member-based. And so it started in the beginning of 2001. A group of club operators and club workers united because they were facing very heavy challenges in the club scene. And they came together and started this association to have kind of a unified voice that could address issues and needs towards the government, the public and administration, back then the police and so on. And this was the starting point. And now over 20 years later, we are the biggest network of club culture worldwide. So our over 350 members are clubs, club cultural venues, subcultural spaces, promoters and collectives. And we, as an organization, advocate for their needs. So what we try is to really advocate for club culture as a crucial part in the cultural landscape and that it is treated like this. That's one of our biggest fight or mission, I would say, because when you think about a club that we see as a cultural institution with a curated musical program, it is like legally not considered as this. We are on the way there, but it is more in the section of being like in the red light district or a casino or an entertainment facility. So we try to change that. And I think we've come a long way. And as well, we just try to maintain the scene. We work on maintaining spaces because with, the more dense city, capitalism and gentrification and all these many crises we have to face, we are losing spaces and we are losing as well free spaces and free spaces of expression. So we try to work on that as well. Besides that, we create a lot of different projects that are addressing current issues Berlin club cultural actors are facing. So that's how we came up as well with the Awareness Academy, because we saw that, discrimination, exclusion is a reality in the scene, but we don't really have resources and capacity to address that. So we came up with an idea and we created an academy that has now an ongoing workshop program that everyone can use for free. And we have come a long way with this as well. Another initiative is we are addressing mental health in the scene and try to provide resources. And each year we are creating new projects that are kind of with the current trends and needs.
I really like this idea of sort of getting club culture seen as a cultural heritage, or at least as a part of culture. What do you think is the biggest challenge in reaching that, or what is the sort of backlash that you face when trying to get, cultural leaders or cultural policymakers to adopt that into actual institutionalized structures?
So, first of all, I have to say Berlin is, I would say, pioneering in this, and still even there we have challenges. I think one is that it is not just culture we are talking about, it's as well, it has a business side, because a club space needs to be a profitable space in order to exist. We don't have enough funding infrastructure yet and so on. And at the same time, it is still a very progressive and very specific culture that a lot of people didn't participate in yet. And it's not a traditional form of culture, even though it's there for so long, but it comes from counterculture and it comes from the underground. It's an expression from resistance. That's where the roots are. And that's why in general, it's more contrary to being a part of, state funding or state activities. And in Berlin, with this very specific history, club culture just makes a huge part of the essence of the city and as well the reputation of the city. And so that's why we had to start addressing this. And luckily we have cultural political structures that are recognizing this and working together with us on this. But as well, thinking about rave culture and club culture, it comes with a lot of stigma. And the idea many people have around it is, still very stigmatizing. People consider this as spaces where you just get wasted and get lost, but they don't really immediately connect it to culture. And many have this because they didn't experience it their own. And I think there are just certain resentments and stereotypes around this, which as well makes it complicated. But I think when we are now looking in Berlin and the discourse, we don't have to negotiate this so much anymore. Like the past 10 years, we've really come a long way. And we see this now as well spreading globally. And that's, a great development, I see. But still, the way is long, I would say.
We still have miles to make. Maybe then, because it seems like you both protect the scene to the outside world with things like this, and then also maybe you want to have an influence within the scene, mainly maybe through the initiatives such as the Awareness Academy. Could you share a little bit about what are the main problems, main issues that you're trying to tackle right now with the Awareness Academy?
So, in general, first of all, the acknowledgement, as I was already saying, the acknowledgement that as in every part of society, exclusion and discrimination is happening in that part of the society as well. And because there is as well this idea, this utopian idea that in clubs we come together and we are all equal and everyone's just safe. So there's this idea. And then we have the other spectrum where people are saying, wow, these are like discriminatory institutions themselves. It starts with getting in at the door with the door policy or whatever. And I think what we try to advocate for or raise awareness for is the truth is in the middle. Like there is discrimination, but there is as well a huge potential of making people feel free and safer. And we just try to help promoters and organizers and club operators to set the right intentions for their spaces and take responsibility for the spaces they are creating, and are kind of creating and installing mechanisms to support people and guests when they are having difficult experiences, when they experience discrimination or violence, so they know what to do. Where can I address my issue? Where can I find help? Where is the support system? And that's what we are working on. And we work with a concept that's called awareness or safer spaces, which is really putting people affected by discrimination or violence at the center of the actions and trying to support them in a healing process or finding a solution or getting out of this situation. And this takes a lot of time and a big process, because it starts when you think about a club or a party, it starts within the structures and the mindset and the core values that sit at the very beginning. And from there you then go on and try to find and create structures to make a party safer. And that's what we basically work on. And we try to do this in a very intersectional way, which means we try to address every dimension of discrimination, not just focusing on gender-based violence, but just having every form of discrimination in there and trying to offer education around it. And we do this by collaborating with people from the scene, with experts from different backgrounds that are creating workshops with us together and then offering them. And at the same time, we are hosting frequently roundtables that are addressing very current issues. For example, the last roundtable we were holding was addressing the rise of the right-wing movement and how this is as well happening within the scene. And yeah, so then we invite core people from the club culture scene who share their experiences and try to come up with ideas and build a network. It's all very much as well network building. And that's, I think, what we try to do. And in general, the main goal is just to raise awareness and help people take responsibility for the work they are doing, and try to do this in a very empathetic and sensitive way, to not cancel people, to not call someone out, but just helping everyone so we can create safer spaces together. And that's as well our mission.
Maybe interesting because you mentioned in the beginning of the answer, and there's a lot that I would actually like to unpack, but this was in the beginning about the door policy. And I have to say that being aware of my own privilege here as a white cis male, the first time I actually very directly experienced discrimination was when I would go to clubs with my friends who were Afghani, from second generation Afghani or Turkish people, that we wouldn't be allowed in clubs. And of course, that was for me a sort of eye-opening experience. And I also thought that was just inherently bad. And then when I would go to Berkheim or to the school in Amsterdam, and that door policy I always thought was sort of like exciting and I wanted to fit in. And it's only when that whole backlash came out where people said like it's so exclusory that I started also thinking about that. And you mentioned that how can you actually unite these two, like the open space and having a door policy?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. And it is very ambivalent, I would say. Maybe start with why a door policy in the first place. And I think we should always keep on asking us this: what is at the center or at the core of the policy we're having here, and whom is it serving? What is our goal with it? So I find that very important. And then when we think about spaces like Berkheim, why the door policy in the first place? I mean, it's an institution that was focusing on clubbing, techno music, and the gay community. And that's the main focus from the beginning on. And that's the crowd they want to put in the center and to address and make feel safe and free. And that's as well with a lot of door policies or rules you see in Berlin with different party concepts, that they are addressing a certain community and their needs and trying to create an intentional and safer space for them. At the same time, what you were addressing as well, people with a certain background that are not able to enter, this is as well something we were observing, and this is as well one of the starting points of the Awareness Academy, that we were talking about door policy and we were seeing, okay, there's a certain group of people who cannot enter, and we have to address this, and we have to acknowledge that there is discrimination going on as well at the door, and talk about it. So, for example, as well, we offer trainings for door staff as well. And at the same time, things are sometimes not thought through, or in terms of security are just going the wrong way. And when you think about safer spaces and awareness, it's just important that you constantly reflect and adapt this. And sometimes we are lacking this when we think about door policies. And at the same time in Berlin as well, why door policies is because there was a time where there were too many people that wanted to enter, and they had to figure out a way. And as well, then dealing with people that are maybe not in the right place, that are maybe too drunk, that are maybe not in the right mood. It is as well addressing this. But there's a lot of things that can go wrong, and that's why it's so important to raise awareness and to train people and to give them the capacity to read situations, to not just reproduce exclusionary behavior. So it's a whole complex discourse, and there's not just this one easy answer to it, because it has this pro and cons, and there are many reasons for door policies, but they can go wrong at the same time.
Yeah, it's quite precarious.
Mm-hmm.
I can imagine that in certain instances it is warranted to limit an individual's freedom to protect the freedom of a collective. I can see that.
And as well to set an intention, like, for example, if you want to enter a queer space, that's for the night, putting on a queer party, I think it's a good idea to ask everyone, do you know where you're entering? And do you agree with the idea of the evening? And do you feel that? So are we in it together? So here I think it can be very empowering as well, and just set an intention and raise awareness from the very beginning. And then you can make the decision on your own. Is this my space? Or maybe not tonight. And I love that idea about dog policy as well.
Yeah, wonderful. Looking back at the time that the Awareness Academy has been there, what is your, now I want to ask in this question, your most salient memory, or what are you, proud is always a bit of a strange word, but is there a sort of result that you feel very warm about?
Yes. So when I think back at the beginning, I was with my colleague Luam, who was back in the days the board of the club commission, and we together started this awareness academy, and we both came from our own experiences and throwing parties and creating policies or frameworks to make the experience safer. And then we were seeing this need, and we started off with the first roundtable and then with the first workshop, which was a basic workshop in addressing the basics of diversity in connection of club culture. And then we were knocking at the doors of clubs, of the member of club commission, saying, hey, we have this offering. What do you think about it? And we basically had to run after the people to make them attend a workshop. And as well at the beginning, when we started to talk about awareness and discrimination and all this as well, things that can trigger very negative feelings, we were seeing as well a lot of insecurity and distrust or fear of, do they want to control us now or police us or tell us what to do? So there were a lot of difficult ideas. And when I look back now, almost 5 years later, I think we broke through this. There is not this distrust anymore. We are just seen as a resource you can address every day, and that is there to help and to reflect together. And as well, like, we started with this one workshop, and now we have something like an academy going on where we have every month from 5 to 10 workshops that people are using, and it's for free, and they are booked out most of the time. And we are able to create more offerings all the time. So I think that's something I'm very proud of. And as well, this concept of safer spaces and awareness, this is something, it comes from club culture and it comes from self-organization. It comes from the queer movement, from the Black communities that were the women's movement that were trying to create safer spaces. And now I think with the Awareness Academy, we as well helped to make it more a standard and to just normalize this. And I think it's as well something I'm very proud of, that it's nothing extraordinary now to ask, do you have a safer spaces policy, or what are you doing for the safety of your guests? It becomes more and more normal. And I think that's a great achievement. And out there are many other organizations that are contributing to this that can be very proud as well. Yeah, and I think just in the past years, there was a lot of change going on.
I know that you're here also at WOMAC specifically to give a mentoring session on how to create safer spaces. For the listeners, of whom quite a lot of them are organizers of festivals, of music camps, of different kinds of events within the music space, what would you tell them, or tips would you give them, or what sort of ideas do you want to share related to this specific topic of creating safer spaces?
Mm-hmm. So first of all, always thinking about what's the space I want to create and who whom I'm addressing and who is in that space and who is not there and why. I think that's a very important question at the beginning. And then when someone is not there, what's the reason for this and what can I do to change it? So in general, just really starting at the very core of your activities and see what's your values and what is the values you want to communicate, and then see how you can align your actions. And as well, the tip I would give is to see this as a very holistic thing. And I see creating safer spaces in two different levels. There's one that is the intervention level. So imagine you are someone going out or attending a concert and you are making a discriminatory experience. The intervention level is what to do in that situation. How can I support that person? What kind of measurements do I have in place that are helping in this situation? And that's one dimension you can think of as an organizer. And on the other hand, and there's the even more important one, there's the prevention level. What are all the measurements I can do in order to reduce the likeliness of something that can go wrong, reduce the likeliness of experienced discrimination as a guest? And there's many, many things you can do. You can educate yourself, you can educate your team, you can create an awareness safer spaces concept, you can write code of conduct, you can think about your communication internally and externally, you can offer workshops for your communities in general. So there's just many things you can do to prevent difficult situations. And as well, I would like to give the tip to not have this idea that there's any space you can make completely safe. There's always the potential that people are having a hard time because this is how the world is. It's very diverse and there are structural inequalities in our society. So there's no way you can make a space 100% safe, but you can decide the intention you want to set and how you decide to help people that are having a difficult time or experiencing discrimination. So something in my practice that I'm seeing very often is that people are having a hard time to acknowledge this, and that there's this idea of, yeah, no, not at our concert, not at our event. We are all very friendly people and we work great together and we are doing our best 100%, but still things can go wrong. And it really makes a difference to then be ready to support and to acknowledge that something is going wrong and have a support system. So that's just the basic tips I would give. And as well, when I was saying, think about it in a holistic way, just think about all the different contact points that you as an organizer have with other people. And this starts with your own team, how safe it is for them to work. It starts with your partners. It starts with the artists you invite and what do you represent, but how do you treat them as well? What kind of experience do they have? Do they feel safe? It starts with everyone that's working at a venue and all the different contact points you can have, from the entrance to the bar to the technicians. So it is a very complex network, and I would just invite everyone to really dive into it and to think about all the scenarios and to not get overwhelmed. You know, you can't get everything right or make everything perfect, but you can think about things and reflect on things. And I think that's a really good homework to do.
So let's say that I represent an organization, for the hypothesis, say, run by only white men who say, no, we don't have that problem at all. And you invite them to look a little bit deeper and start thinking about whether they can improve, yes or no. Would you say there is a good place to start? Is there a starting point to look, or is it, because you say it's very holistic, but it can also say it's quite overwhelming, especially if you think you're already doing everything right and you have actually never thought about that?
Yeah, so in that case, I would always try to I give trainings as well. And I have been in these rooms, and they can get difficult, but as well, there's a huge opportunity there. And I would always dive into self-reflection first, to talk about what's the power I'm holding? Where do I come from? What's privilege? And to see and have this realization that not everyone is having the same experience. And the more privileged you are, the harder time you have to realize different experiences. It's just normal. It's nothing you have to be ashamed of, but you can get aware of your privilege and then share your privilege. But it starts with getting aware of it. So I would really start with self-reflection and dive into this and get in contact with different experiences. Yeah.
Another question that we also discussed in the context of Play It Loud. So Play It Loud is a JMI initiative that also focuses on diversity within music and music education specifically. Is that, especially if you design courses that are open for sign up, there's this risk of sort of, for lack of a better word, preaching to the choir. How do you ensure that you also reach the club spaces that most need it?
This happens, but at the same time, we are lucky that we have the structure of the club commission. So we have a very diverse range of members that are clubs, have different backgrounds, different takes, different genres. So, and we have the resources of having mailing lists and all of this where we can address all of them. And we frequently check in on their needs and what they are looking for. And we frequently make sure that we have different levels of education so that always we have something for the very basic knowledge when you just want to start out. And we would always, make these offerings all the time and just not get tired. But at the same time, what we can do at the club commission is call people, check in on them. We see them in other spaces and other occasions, and we just keep on talking about it. And then as well, you kind of have a domino effect at some point as well. When you see one big club who starts to work on this, it's more likely that another big club that maybe never thought about it would as well get into a process. And as well, what is really beneficial is offering, we started, for example, with formats like peer-to-peer support, which is basically you as a club or a collective, you can come with a case. Let's say someone experienced discrimination, either a guest or maybe, and that happens as well often in the team, something is going wrong and then they don't know how to deal with it. And at the same time, as they are not yet much in the discourse or have like awareness or diversity process, where can they go? So we offer this peer-to-peer support where they can just be with others that have as well cases, and then they can exchange. And we have mediators who are kind of guiding this and help each other. And I just have seen the most benefits, or like it's most successful when they get into exchange and realize, okay, we're kind of facing the same problems or we have the same lack of something, and then they can exchange on strategies. And this is a very empowering experience as well. And I think that's as well the most exciting part in every workshop is where people can work in groups and exchange on their different practice and see they are not alone in this. And there's other ones who don't get it right in the first place or are perfect in this or have problems. And it's reducing shame. And so, yeah, I think.
Of course, you're primarily focused on club culture in Berlin. Now you're here also at WOMAX and extending that reach to, very other kinds of musicians and organizations that probably are running into similar problems, similar issues. Are any of the resources widely available, or is it only for within the network?
So you can definitely just access our Awareness Academy website. It's awarenessacademy.de. It's in German and English. And we just encourage everyone to use this material because it's not limited to the club space. And at least in Germany, we are seeing this, how the concepts of safer spaces and awareness work that is experimented with, and this practice comes from the club culture and DIY spaces, but is now taking over cultural institutions. It's even in the football stadium. You see awareness teams, and so it's spreading out. And this is because there's the power in it, and it's really not limited to that space. It's just that the club space has this potential because there are so many different bubbles and perspectives coming together, and it's a space of experimentation. So I think, it's just great when it's spreading over and people at Womex are taking these tools and work with them.
If people that are listening want to connect with you directly or want to learn more about the work that you do, or maybe even book you for their next big event or summit, where can they find you?
So they can just address the Club Commission. We have an email address. It's called awareness@clubcommission.de. And you can always reach out and then either ask for me or ask for any activity, and then someone will get back.
As always, the very last question. What is the power of music?
Yeah, so I touched a little on this already. So I really believe the power of music is bringing people together from different backgrounds, different experiences, and different approaches. And it's just creating a collective experience. And I feel especially in very troubling times, this is even more important. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much for listening. If you want more information about JM, or you would like to get involved, visit www.jmi.net. At JMI, we are on a mission to make the world more musical. That's why we created Mubazar, a digital platform that helps us manage all our musical activities across 80 countries worldwide, connecting musicians with opportunities to grow both personally and professionally. If you are a music professional looking for a better way to manage and promote your music activities, check out Mubazar. Created for music organizers, by music organizers, Mubazar allows you to run music competitions, workshops, camps, auditions, masterclasses, awards, events, and much more. Mubazar offers custom application forms, payments for your activities, jury tools, translations, analytics, and more. Mubazar is fast becoming the best place for musicians to find and apply for music opportunities online, and you can sign up today for a free organizer account by going to www.mubazar.com, registering, and then requesting to upgrade to an organizer on the right-hand menu. For more info, don't hesitate to get in touch via support@mubazar.com. It would mean a lot to us if you could give us 1 minute of your time and rate and review the podcast. In case you have any suggestions or would like to be one of our next guests, feel free to reach out to us through the JMI socials.